I know, I know, I know, but I promise you, I'm the same guy, just with a very, very different look. It's been 10 years. It's been a good 10 years since I made that last video, although I did post it up in around 2021, might have been 2020. Um, and actually, the day that I made that video on with the whiteboard, um, what I did that day, I was quite royally pissed off. All the work that I went into my book, all the work I put into it, all the money I put into it, and the publisher delisted it. All over $20 stupid annual fee. Long story, but that's not what I want to talk about today. This is my first video back, and it's hard to restart. But the big thing is that I have so much information that I've got to get out. I see more and more gurus walking stages, talking here, talking there, and they're not giving you the right information. And I'm not saying that they're not right because I don't have the right to do that. What I'm saying is that the right, true, proper information is something that nobody really knows about. They don't understand how everything works, but that's not even what I wanted to talk about today. I have so much stuff planned for this channel. Now, those last videos, the talk with the whiteboard seemed to help a lot of people, but there was other people that got confused, that got lost in, and maybe I was all over the place, but when you're trying to disseminate such amazing, powerful information, and all of that information came from my NDE, the edification or education period that the three beings were showing me and taught me. I was gone for 10 minutes, but in a different sense, I spent an entire day on the other side, going over and over and over so much stuff. And that was what I tried to bring out in my book. The problem is that, like, in some of my videos, somewhere or in the talks I've done, it's been so long, but in all of that, I said that they taught and they showed me and they taught. And yeah, in a way, it was disjointed even when they were showing me stuff. It wasn't, systemically systematic in that way. But since that day and since the last day of my videos that I posted, so much has happened. So much has happened. And like I said, I have an awful lot planned for this channel now with all the information and everything that's happened since. What's going on in the world is makes it even more important. I can't stress enough. Um, I went on to help so many people around the world that got a hold of me. You know, my biggest thing is that helping people that have lost someone. I think that that's kind of the field that I kind of went into, not intentionally. But it's been a staggering ride since 2016. Like I said, my book is, it got delisted over a $20 charge. And then I was really kind of upset. Is probably a best term I can think of. That day when I was doing the whiteboard stuff, um, because just at every turn of trying to make money at anything, everything just went in the toilet. So I kind of gave up doing that, and I just started helping people, for nothing. And I don't even know that I did the book, honestly, to make any kind of a money, to make any kind of a living or an income at it, because you can't. You can't. And I will never, ever, ever publish another book. I have so much more material for a book, but that's going to be free to you guys, those who show up, those who want to learn, those who I can teach. And then it's never going to cost you a penny. Never. I just, I know my time is growing short and I need to get this information out. All the stuff that those three beings taught me ended up being a unified theory, a new, undiscovered, unified theory. And that I'm going to bring to you guys. There's other stuff I've written that's kind of dark, but it wasn't, it was a science paper. And I can't even get it published. Spent 2.5 hours with chat and with AI and, just to come to the realization that although it is proper in scientific terms, it could never be published. But, I'll get into that in other videos. The things that I really wanted to cover here today is, today is Thursday. What is it? January 29th. And on January 23rd was my birthday last Friday. And on Saturday morning, the man who was once my best friend and my father passed away at 89 years old. I had, it's been, it hasn't been hard. It hasn't, this is where I help people with lost stuff. I haven't shed a tear. I haven't, it's not getting to me or anything like that. And this is what I help people with. And I've come to understand with all the work that I've done is that people, what they have a problem with is when they lose somebody, throughout their life, they're there. They're there. And it's a unconscious thing. And that's where we take stuff for granted. It's the unconscious stuff. Because now all of a sudden it gets tossed into consciousness. That person's no longer there. And because the largest percentage of the global population does not understand where that individual has gone, that's why we use the word lost. It's like they're lost and not like a set of keys. Because then you're gripped by emotion. And the biggest thing that we're going to be working on here on the channel is to teach you guys what emotion, motion actually is. Electricity sets everything in motion. The proper way to create your physical reality. Now, what was I just thinking about that I really felt that I should? It's gone, so obviously it wasn't all that important. But the passing of my father, and yes, I'm a little all over the place again, and I'm sorry about it because there is so much to talk about. Now, I think that I may redo those whiteboard things, and that was actually what I was going to talk about was the whiteboard things that I did on it, the emotion and all of that stuff, the secret of the secret. I may, if people want it, I may redo those individually in a video of its own. I think that probably will work best, and I'll do it in a systematic way. And that'll probably be good groundwork for the unified theory. Get those covered because those parts and pieces that I did on the whiteboard board is part of the unified theory. It's just described in a little bit of a different way. But there, I've got an awful lot of stuff planned for this. All the content from the book that I was going to publish, Soul the Real You, uh, life lessons of a near-death experience. I'm going to put up here for free. And like I said earlier, it's not going to cost anybody a penny. Not going to cost me anything to put it up um, into a book form. I mean, the legwork, the not the writing. The writing doesn't bother me, and it's actually it's good when I do the writing, and I have done a fair bit. Um, and it's I'm just going to put it out. The other thing I got planned is my original book. I think I'm going to put up videos where I'm just going to read each chapter myself. That way people can follow along and have the book. If you want, I'm going to try and set something up where people can just say, look, can I have a copy of the book? I do have a digital copy of it. Kind of like the Kindle books, but no page turning or nothing like that. It's just it, and it's readable. So, and it is the not editors, publishers format, final format. And that was what went into print for the book. So that's what you would get. I'll try and set up an email address and you just put book in the title and boom, I'll send it to you, no problem. Um, Another thing that I kind of ran into, and I did talk a little bit about it in my videos, like 10, 12, 10, 10, 11 years ago, where I was looking at opening myself up more to helping those on the other side, as well as people on this side. I had a partial transcript for um, Spirit. Oh, what was the title of the book I was going to put? Spirit Medium. And then I crossed it out, and then it was Spirit Translator because mediums, that's what they do. They translate the stuff from the other side here for the people that are here. Uh, I will, I'm definitely going to get into that too with videos. This video here was not planned, as you can tell. I just kind of went off the cuff, and it had a lot to do with my father's passing and just kind of being busy. And if I sat down or tried to schedule the time that I could sit down and write out, I will with coming um, episodes, segments, videos, whatever you want to call them. Uh, they'll be well planned out. Not so much like this one, doing it off the cuff. And I knew that if I didn't just sit down and just try and do this, that I would just continue to put it off and not do it. And I really, really want to do this. I want to get back to you people. I want to get back to helping you because nobody else can. I do want to mention a person. I can't use their name because they were for their area. They were quite well known, but it was a person that I helped. And it was right around the time that I did the whiteboard talks that this took place. I was just going to mention her first name, but I don't even think that's a good idea. Anyway, she was reasonably well known. And one morning she drove over to her son's place because he wasn't answering the phone. And she had a set of her own keys. So she let herself in. And I found him in the living room in which he had shot himself. And I reached out to her myself as soon as I heard a portion of her story. And it was kind of an elaborate way that it came about. But from that day that she found him, she had been housebound for nearly 10 months and hadn't left the house, hadn't even stepped outside on her front step. So I got a hold of her on my dime, called her, and we talked to that woman for 3 hours. Now I live in Canada and she lives suitably far south into the United States. So it wasn't a cheap call, but I didn't I mean, it was the last thing that was on my mind. And you know what? After I finished talking to her, I got to back up for a second because she had spent months with psychiatrists and psychologists that would come into and counselors that would come into her home and sit and do sessions with her. She had the money to pay for that one. So, but unfortunately, with all the work that they had done, it didn't matter. Like it really didn't matter because nothing helped her. But after I talked to her for 3 hours and I gave her a bit of understanding, she went out the next day out of her house. And then that alone is a testimonial and a half of just one of the first things that I really done to really help people to make a difference in their life. Yeah, well, some of the jobs that I was doing, this is where I kind of stepped out of myself and I started communicating with the other side and relaying messages to people that I didn't even know. I was delivering auto parts to garages and restoration places and dealerships and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, a shop owner that I become good friends with. Well, maybe you shouldn't have said that because we became friends after more so than when I'd done this. I didn't know who the person was that was standing with him, and I was standing off a good 12, 15 feet away because I had questions for him. And I had a message for her. Out of nowhere. I could sense the person standing beside me, and it ended up being her grandmother, who she was extremely, extremely close with. And the second I described her grandmother, without saying it was her grandmother, she lost it. And of course, I caught her and I gave her a hug, and she started crying, or she was crying. And it was a very different situation than what I was ever used to. But I was dead on. I mean, I described the dress that she used to always wear, the more of a skirt. I described the two tops that she typically wore, the grandmother. Described her hair, described the different ways that she used to wear it predominantly. And even a time when the woman that was with me, or that I was with, was a child, and it was one of her strong memories. As a child with her grandmother, holding her hand and looking up at her. And I pictured that, like I saw it. So I described it. And I told her, I said, you were like 5, maybe 6 years old, maybe 7 tops. You were walking along a little bit of a thing from a pond or a lake. And you looked up at her holding her hand in your left hand. And that was the picture. And that was the confirmation point. Though a lot of the other stuff I'd done, I had already sealed it. Just more and more and more came. And she was always worried about her grandmother being gone, being lost, being unhappy. And I told her, I said, no. So I did like a goofy dance that she was showing me, kind of like a Popeye dance. So like it was weird, very cartoonish. And she was so happy. And my buddy that owned the shop, because I had to drop off parts and I had to leave quick. He told me the next time I saw him, which was a day or two later, how different she was. And the fact that that woman was his wife's cousin. So it's kind of crazy. But there's all kinds of stuff that I'm going to bring. I don't, this video is getting pretty long. Uh, I've got so much to bring to you guys. I want to really and honestly get back before it's my time to go and help. Help where I can. I know I can get people to understand. So things we're going to tackle is what you are, who you are, how things work in physical reality, how you fit into that, how you can make your life better. We're going to touch on relationships as well, because relationships have to do with everything that I just pointed out. I just hope that the younger generation will tune in, because if I can take everything from me and what I know, what I've learned, my experiences at 63 years old, and instill all of that knowledge into a 21-year-old, where is that 21-year-old going to be when they're my age? Because it's all about perspective, perception of that perspective. Another big thing that we're going to tackle is consciousness versus emotion are the two things about existence. Anyway, like I said, this video is getting kind of long. I'm happy to be back. Yes, I'm a little nervous, and that has more to do with the fact that I wasn't prepared and that I just sat down, talk, and hopefully people will listen. I hope they'll listen. It's important. Not to me, not just to you individually, but for society, for the human race. And I need you to remember that you are one single cell of the human body, or of the human race body. We all have a job to do, and it's with one another. But we'll tackle that another time. Thank you for coming. We'll talk soon.